Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our second Riversmeet collaboration with Bookmarks. We're delighted to welcome you to an evening of short films, some readings, some discussion, interrogation of the artists, and we'll start with a few words from Richard Bradbury, who's also from Riversmeet, just to let you know what the whole Riversmeet project is about and why we're here and what we're trying to show you this evening. So I'll hand over to Richard.
Thanks, Maureen. Good evening, everyone. I just thought I'd give you a brief introduction to the purposes of Riversmeet. Well, it says on the website that we're trying to connect the past to the present, and partly that's about taking moments in the past, taking moments from history, and trying to learn about the present through them. So we're using them as analogies. We're not trying to say, oh, this is exactly the same as something that happened in the past. So, for example, we've done a piece of work on the English Revolution, which was about democracy. Tonight, we're going to talk about Shelley and his involvement in the radical movements in the early 19th century and what happened as a result of that. And that, as the evening goes on, I hope will become the relevance of that will become more apparent as we work through the evening. So that's one of the threads that comes from Riversmeet. The others are we run a very small printing and publication wing and what we call the slow reading section of where we take books that people feel intimidated by, and we just take them very slowly, work our way through them over a long period of time, and talk about those books, talk about their relationship to the world we live in now. So those are the three threads. I want to talk particularly about Shelley, and that will run into the first of the videos we're going to show you this evening. In 1812, Shelley had been in Ireland in the aftermath of the United Irishmen's uprising and the repression that happened as a result of that. And he was very involved with the Irish revolutionaries and the Irish nationalists and the Irish Republicans, wrote a manifesto, which was an address to the Irish people. And as a result of that was persuaded to leave Ireland. He travelled first of all to Wales and then to North Devon, where he and a small group of his friends set up a small community where they attempted to bring some of Shelley's utopian ideas into a kind of lived reality. As a result of this, they were very heavily watched by the state. In particular, the then Home Secretary, who had a particular dislike for Shelley. His mail was opened. The group were watched all the time by government spies who patrolled the roads around the village of Lynmouth and Linton, the two villages of Lynmouth and Linton, which were, at that point, very isolated from the rest of the country. And there was an attempt to keep them penned in. And so the play, which we're working on at the moment, and the three videos you're going to see this evening come from big speeches from that play. The play is about Shelley's attempt to set up this community, attempt to communicate his radical ideas to the world outside, and eventually how he avoided being kept trapped in North Devon. So I think what we're going to do is go on now and show you the first of the videos.
I believed in a mighty future to come, when truth and beauty are bedfellows. And those of us who would speak the truth do not have to speak of ugliness and deformity. We are the many, though too few of us know it. Too few of the many. And so, first of all, we must acknowledge the presence of this grave and mighty juggernaut that is. That great shining presence, on whose visage the sun glitters, but in whose shadow lie the crushed, over whom this terrible machine has passed. They stand amazed before the countenance. It is only when their bones are shattering beneath its feet do they come to comprehend that the face is nothing but a seductive masquerade. They go to their ends crying, "Why us? Why us? We never thought this would happen to us." The paradox, then, is that we must pass through monstrosity to reach beauty. Not merely touching pitch, but plunging our hands into it. Work it under our fingernails, so we might better see it. And so know the means to wash this dark presence from the world.
Okay, I think I'm back on screen. Clearly, we had a little bit of internet connection problem there. I hope people were able to see the film reasonably well. Just to say hello to a few people who are joining us this evening. We've got people here from all over Devon, all over London. Ros up in Liverpool. We've got somebody here who lives in Shelley's birthplace of Horsham. We've got Patricia from San Francisco. We've got Eva in Toronto. Charles in Hampstead. I'll try and give a kind of check in with people as we go along. But please do keep comments coming in, because it's the only way that we know that somebody's there. Otherwise, you can feel a bit like you're just talking into the ether. So I'll hand back to Richard now to introduce our second film, which is a companion piece to the one you've just seen.
Okay, it's really nice to hear from people all over Britain and all over the world, because one of the things that Shelley was very concerned to be, even when he was very rooted in a particular place, was to connect with and communicate with people in the world outside. What I've tried to do with the second of these speeches is talk about one of the people who was with Shelley in North Devon, who people actually, I think, know very little about, a woman called Elizabeth Hitchener. She was a really important figure in terms of Shelley's development as a radical thinker. And I was really interested in the play to introduce a very unheard voice. So one of the things I'm very interested in the work that we do is trying to imagine moments in the past as not frozen, as not lost, but as very much part of the world we live in. And one of the ways we've done that with the upcoming play is attempting to set the play very firmly in the 19th century, but then to launch it into the 21st century. And hopefully when you get to see the play, you'll see how that works. What I want to do is just introduce the next video. It's about a moment in Elizabeth Hitchener's life where she's explaining to Shelley how it is that in the early 19th century, she's become a very well-versed political agitator, a very literate speaker, and somebody who has made her way through the world of the early 19th century in ways that were really quite extraordinary. So we're going to now show you the next of the videos.
There is in Lewes a bookseller, much reviled in the town for his printing of the works of Tom Paine, but also much regarded as a useful idiot for his knowledge of the printed word beyond Lewes. He saw me one day, looking in at his window, called to me to come into the shop. Even then I knew enough not to cross the threshold. I told him if he wished to speak with me, it must be in the light of day. He came out to me in the street. Bending his knees so that his face was before mine, he asked, did I like the covers of the books? I answered that I much preferred what was within the covers. He asked me then, could I read?
Okay, I think, are we having some difficulty with the film? Okay, I think, can people... I think we're back to me at the moment. We're obviously having a slight bit of difficulty with the film. We'll come back to it in a minute. Just to go back to the first film, we just wanted to thank Aidan Casey and Gabriel Casey. Aidan was played Shelley and did the voice for Shelley, and Gabriel Casey filmed the Linton film. Perhaps if we could just turn to Jan and Richard at this point, and I think you're going to kind of talk about the whole issue of surveillance.
Yeah, thanks, Maureen.
Thanks, Maureen.
We're gonna let Dave wrestle with the video for a minute to try and get it back on. Jan,
I think yes, for all of Shelley's problems, he might not have had this one, but it's to do with our age. But this is fascinating stuff, Richard, and this will find its way on the stage without a doubt. But my first question is the broad one about surveillance. So from Shelley in 1812 to spy cops now, just over 200 years later, it seems to be that surveillance has always been with us. Could you comment?
Yeah, absolutely. In some ways, I think that the only thing that's changed is the technology that the states and other interests use to keep an eye on dissidents. You know, it's if you think today, people use end-to-end encryption messaging services, assuming that those messages are confidential and sealed. I think that's probably an unsafe assumption, but equally well, in 1812, Shelley wrote letters, put them in an envelope, sealed the envelope shut, posted them off to his friends, assuming that there was an early 19th century version of end-to-end encryption at work. And of course, those letters went to Barnstable Post Office, where they were promptly steamed open, the contents were transcribed, and the letters were then sent off to the Home Secretary to read to increase his rage at Shelley.
Yes, so slow espionage.
Yeah.
Like slow learning. Okay. Sorry, had you finished before I go?
Yeah. Go on.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm thinking now of counter surveillance and truth telling in the case of Julian Assange, who would have had a beloved supporter in Shelley, I'm sure, who is still being psychologically tortured for revealing the truth. Now, in Assange's case, it's not what he did or stood for, it's what he's revealed. So how can the movement help people like Assange?
Yeah, I think it's one of the things we know about states is that they like to keep secrets, and they become very enraged when people release those secrets into the world outside. And I think I remember watching in 1980 those extraordinary films of people in Poland turning up to negotiate with the government on behalf of Solidarność with tape recorders. And the state saying, "Oh, no, you can't record. You can't possibly record what we're talking about." And they said, "Yeah, no, we want to be open. We want our conversations and our negotiations to be heard by people in the world outside." So, because states love to keep secrets, they wrap it up in a kind of rhetoric about diplomacy. And they become enraged when people release those secrets into the world outside. So but also I think it's one of the things that depresses me about the world today is this growing sense of a kind of uniformity of opinion. We've had, ever since Thatcher talked about there is no alternative in the 1980s, I think that's developed as a kind of common sense. There is only one way to look at the world. And so it's dissidents become fair game. And we see that increasingly around the world. You see people being jailed for thinking, people being watched by the state for thinking dissident ideas. And that is what really connects us to Shelley today. That he wrote both poetry and prose, he wrote letters, he wrote manifestos that were a challenge to the dominant thinking of the early 19th century. And he was hated for it.
Yeah, we can almost see it as part of the job description of the artist to reveal this curtain of uniformity and show us what's there and write beyond what's accepted. But I wonder if there are free artists as opposed to safe artists, and the free artists may not get funded. They won't get on. In other societies they could be persecuted. Maybe in this society attacked by the press or whatever. But the safe artists, the safe artist gets on. But I'm wondering also if the free artist is the poor artist and without private funds, like possibly Byron had.
Yeah, I think that's right. People thrive by going with the flow, and it's much harder to cut back against the grain of the dominant flow in society. It's obvious. I think these days we've virtually given up applying to the Arts Council for funding, because the kind of stuff we do isn't terribly popular with those people. So one of the great things, of course, is that what we've learned over the last year is that there are all kinds of ways to get the work out. One of the things we've done, for example, is we a year ago we were building up to putting the English Revolution play, the play about the Levellers, on in a theatre. And that disappeared, and we were stuck. We had 2 promotional videos that we were going to use for a crowdfunding session. We put them on the website as examples of the work we've been doing, and then begin to generate the videos that you've seen one already this evening, the Linton film. It would be a real shame if people won't get to see the bookshop film, but we'll find some way of we'll put it back. We'll put it on the website, and people can go and look at it on the website. I'm sure Maureen will talk about how people can see the website. We've got 2 more short films to show this evening. So one of the things we've done is find a way of getting the work out there. Of course, that's difficult, but the fact of the matter is that over the last 20-25 years, the possibilities of doing that, to getting that work out, has become more possible because the technology has proliferated. So there are always ways around it. I think that's one of the lessons that we learned from the past, actually, is that no matter how appalling the situation seems, there are always people resisting. One of the really interesting things about the period that we're working on at the moment, which is with the Shelley play and the play that comes after it, which is about conspiracy theories in the early 19th century, is that despite the state's ability to destroy people, and in a way, they executed large numbers of dissidents in the early 19th century, people still resisted, people still fought back. They did extraordinary things in that period. So and that's one of the things that I hope we can inspire, is that a continuing spirit of resistance.
Yeah, I also want to ask how we can spot and nurture good work, because there are many who would like to be artists or writers who kind of know too much and take the road of activism. That's where I'm going to put the energy. And at the point where the activist wants to start writing or making work, you've missed your foot on the ladder. So there's this dissonance between what you know and where you are in the career path to make it as an artist. Because if you're an activist, you're often at odds with the Arts Council and the orthodoxy. Any comments on that?
Well, to be honest, I'm probably not the best person to ask, because I've muddled along for 45 years, kind of, I'll do a bit of that now and I'll do a bit of that now. I've been I think politically active since I was 17 years old, and I'm clearly a little bit older than that now. But I don't see a necessary contradiction between the two things. And again, I'll go back to Shelley. I don't think he saw a necessary tension between his work as a writer and his work as a radical activist. The politics feeds into the work, and the work feeds back into the politics. People recited some of his poems. Obviously, the Mask of Anarchy is probably the best example of this. But people recited his work in public, even though they weren't published in his. The vast majority of his work wasn't published in his lifetime. It wasn't until probably 35 years after his death that his work began to circulate in a printed book, but it was certainly circulated in oral form among people. Okay. Yeah. So I think that's people find a path between the two things, between the two routes. So yeah.
And of course, We Are Many is now mainstream.
Okay.
It was the banner line of Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party 200 years later.
Yeah. I can see that. I see that. I think we can go back and try and show the bookshop video again. So I think Dave is going to. It says he's going to try and kick us all out, except for Maureen. So he's going to kick you and me out.
Right. Thank you, Richard. Before I'm kicked out, thank you.
Yeah. No, my pleasure, Jan. Thanks. Okay. There we go, Maureen.
Hello. Thank you very much, everybody, for bearing with us. I've been reading the comments as they come along, and I hope people have been finding the discussion interesting. What we're going to do actually is we're going to try bookshop again right at the end. This is one of the challenges of lockdown life and trying to do things remotely. We've got people in London, Cambridge, and Devon, all in a virtual studio together, and obviously the internet's fluctuating a bit this evening. So there we go. Thanks very much for bearing with us, folks. We're going to go to another one of our videos before we'll come back to bookshop. and we'll try and show it again at the end. What I will say is that all of our videos are on the Riversmeet website. That's www.riversmeetproductions.co.uk. If anybody would like to get in touch with us, we're at info@riversmeetproductions.co.uk, and we can either give you a link to the website, or we can give you a direct link to our Vimeo, where you can watch the videos as often as you like in absolutely pristine condition. So we're going to move next to another one of the Shelley related videos, and as it would appear that we have a considerable number of people who all come from Shelley's birthplace with us tonight, this is especially for you. This is Lord Sidmouth. Richard, I don't know if you want to come back in and say a couple of words about Lord Sidmouth, or whether you want to come back afterwards, perhaps. I think Lord Sidmouth was Home Secretary at the time, is that right?
Yeah.
And absolutely loathed Shelley and persecuted him across the country. With a, I mean, I think Lord Sidmouth actually makes Priti Patel look like a complete sweetie pie, as far as I can as far as I can see. So perhaps Dave, if we've got the wonderful Dave Gilchrist from Bookmarks, who's wrestling with the technology tonight, and we're very, very grateful to him. Perhaps if we could move into the Lord Sidmouth video, and let's everybody. We've got people here from across the world. If you can collectively keep your fingers crossed that the internet stays with us, and we'll go into the wonderful Michael Simkins rendition of Lord Sidmouth.
Now, obviously, as a Minister of State, as Home Secretary, it is my duty to preserve the safety of the nation, and to do that by ensuring that subversives, such as these, are watched carefully. That is the function of my office. So I'm not being nosy, not in a conventional sense. I am not being nosy, not in a conventional sense. When I have the letters steamed open and read in the post office at Barnstable, this is no more than business as usual. Yet when it is one of ours, I want more than the usual. I mean, with the others, it is obvious. Jealousy, envy, disappointment teetering into anger and into beyond to rage. But this one, this Percy, this Bish, this Shelley, this gilded youth, he could have been. He had every chance from the moment he entered the world to be one of us. And when one of ours fails, I need to gaze into his heart, need to hear the whisper of the blood in his veins, the gasp of his spunk. I need to smell the warm air of his little farts when he shits. I need to taste the spit when he licks an envelope to steal it shut. I need to see the paper on which his private words, his secret words, have been written, to feel the rustle between my fingers. What he needs, I think, it seems, is just a gentle reminder of what the law, as it stands, can do to him, should it wish, the law. My anonymous friend. I mean, of course, what I and my rather more corporeal friends can do with the law as it stands. And what we can do, if we so wish, to change that law. So that what might he think of as his rights can become, in the blink of an eye, late one evening when no one is looking, at the very best of privilege. which I allow him as and when. And as and when I can take away. With a little flick of my wrist when it's just holding a pen. Not even a hand on his shoulder. A gentle reminder for one of ours. And if that is not enough, little pigs, let me come in. Little pigs, let me come in. Come into your minds and into your hearts. Little pigs, let me come in. Little pigs, let me come in. Or I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. Little pigs, let me come in. Or I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. Down.
Thank you very much. I'm sure some of you out there will have recognised Michael from the countless TV dramas and films that he's appeared in, and he's also on so many occasions graced the West End stage, playing everything from appearing in King Lear at the National Theatre through to something which I didn't know until earlier this evening, that he'd actually been in the original stage version of Mamma Mia, playing a very, very different character to the one that he was playing tonight. I think I'm right in saying that the good news for the Shelley fans out there is that Shelley and his compatriots did actually escape from Lord Sidmouth's men, and they got a boat from Linton across to Barry Island. So there was a little bit of justice there, at least. I'm delighted now to turn to Roelof Bakker, who is with us this evening, who's worked with us at Riversmeet on several occasions. Those of you who tuned in last time will be familiar with some of his work, as he worked with Sean Traynor, the writer of Savannah and Her 13 Moons, producing the absolutely fabulous design of the book. And he's also worked with Jan Woolf, our other author, who has been talking earlier this evening on her book Stormlight. But tonight we're going to talk about Roelof's work, his own work as an artist. And I think, dare we go into another film, Dave? We're going to show a very short film that Roelof has made on the theme of surveillance, but from a slightly different angle to the ones we've been showing so far. And we're going to talk about that after the film. But if we keep everything crossed and
By Farringdon Station, my tripod tall and erect, I cough and weep. Thick dust clouds, nocturnal emissions of millions of tiny particles, come down like falling stars, penetrating the lungs of 1,000 unknowing strangers. I watch while my camera records as powdery grey toxic waste is casually deposited into the black of night. What is it I breathe in every day? By Farringdon, by Euston, by Waterloo. What colour? My lungs. What colour? My lungs. What colour? My lungs. What colour? My lungs.
Thank you, Roelof. We can get you back on screen. That's great.
It worked out well.
The first time I watched that, by the end, I could feel my chest constricting by the end of it. But you explore themes of surveillance, both personal and environmental, within the film, and how they intersect. Do you want to say perhaps a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the film consists out of two different clips, and one I see as a kind of citizen surveillance, where I was doing a nighttime project in London where I was taking my camera and my tripod to different places, and one night I ended up at Farringdon, and I was thinking, oh, it's beautiful clouds here, I must record these. And then as I was recording, I'm thinking, this is actually a dust cloud. And then I became aware of the chimney and the fact that though the building site was supposed to be closed, there was some kind of illegal dumping of waste taking place. And I was concerned what it was that was actually being released into the nighttime air. And the other clip was taken a few years later, kind of more like a selfie video, like a self-surveillance, really. I was still working on this project, looking at the impact of pollution on breathing and on health in general. And I'm asthmatic, and my symptoms are kind of about coughing, and I really wanted to gauge how I actually appear when I have a coughing fit. And they don't last very long, like maybe 15 seconds, but it's an overwhelming sensation to kind of better understand how other people might see me or somebody like me in a public space, for instance. And so I did a number of these videos, and actually found it very disturbing, but very revealing as well. And it kind of made me more aware of my condition. So yeah, it was kind of a helpful exercise.
Great. How much of the film would you consider a work of fiction, and how much almost a kind of witness statement to pollution of the air that people who live in cities breathe every day?
Yeah, so the film is made out of just two clips, and I guess they're both witness statements, but there's a space of time in between two. The London footage was recorded in 2016, and the other in 2018. But I realized that one was about the cause and the other the effect, and so by bringing the two together, I was kind of creating, I guess, a fictional story made out of real elements of genuine witness statements. And adding the text is also kind of an observational statement, but it's also about a realization that what I'm recording could also be anywhere else in the city, and it would not just affect me, it is affecting everybody, and it's just happening quietly. And it also made me think about the lack of reporting about, for instance, in London, 10,000 people a year die from pollution, air pollution related deaths, and we don't really talk about it. And also we don't really see it. It's not like in the 1950s with the London smog, with the sulfide pollution from coal fires. You could really see it. Now it's kind of hidden. And actually this moment for me was like a visible a chance to actually see the pollution, in this kind of nighttime light.
Okay. I know for you at a personal level, the film was made at the end of your time living in London, and you moved out of London at that point. Were you conscious that it marked a big personal change while you were making it?
I think when I wrote the text, really, I wrote the text quite soon after, and the idea was that I was writing texts, either fiction or non-fiction, to fit the length of a clip. So it kind of was really minimizing my language, but I realized it was kind of telling me something, i.e., what am I doing here? And a couple of years before that, I was on the tube from Wight City to Finsbury Park, and as I got to Finsbury Park, I realized I can't actually breathe, really. And I wasn't really aware of, how bad the pollution on the tube was. But when I came home, I tested my lung capacity on a spirometer, and I only had like 10% of lung capacity left. And I kept myself, I totally mismanaged the situation, keeping myself awake at night, drinking coffee, and then making an appointment with my GP the next morning. And she was saying, you should have called an ambulance. And that's when I kind of realized I'm not really taking this seriously. And actually this pollution is affecting me badly. And so, yeah, it was part of my decision to leave. But I moved to Cambridge, and actually Cambridge is also a city with narrow streets. It can be very polluted there as well, with lots of diesel engines and stuff. So, but nevertheless, it has had a positive impact, and it did push my move forwards, you know, making this little film.
Yeah, I think, I mean, many people are forced to move out of cities for exactly that reason. And as you say, not something that's it's very easy to minimise, both personally, but it's also something that's politically minimised as well.
Yeah.
So thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for you know, a kind of a slightly sideways look at the whole issue of surveillance of what's going on and self-surveillance. An absolutely fascinating film. Thank you.
Yeah, I think everybody, you know, we all record things now, and actually we can all put it to use as well. So, you know,
yeah.
Thanks very much for sharing.
Thanks, Roelof. And a link to the film will be on the Riversmeet website. I think very, 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 very soon. Talking of the Riversmeet website, I've got a couple of, this is a kind of advert break, really, just to let you know what's going on. We've been trying to have a series of blogs. Richard, who you've all met earlier, blogs fairly regularly on our Riversmeet website on all sorts of matters cultural, but we've been trying to have some guest bloggers. And just before Christmas, we had a fantastic guest blog from Tansy Hoskins on kind of political and cultural issues in relation to fashion. And this month, our guest blogger is Charles Harris. And the blog's entitled "Forgetting is All the Rage." And Charles has written an absolutely fascinating piece examining the current cultural almost obsession with amnesia. Absolutely riveting read. I kind of recommend it to everybody who's here. And so please, please do read it. But also, you know, if you might be interested yourselves in offering a guest blog to us, please do get in touch. We want to try and be as interactive as possible and start to build up a community of people who want to talk about culture in a slightly offbeat way. But please do get in touch with us. The second thing that we do is, alongside of all of these short films and plays and the blog and is a series of courses. We started a thing called slow reading courses. You'll all have heard of the slow food movement and slow fashion and things like that. But actually, there's a slow learning movement as well. And we started last year with a course which is still running, actually, on James Joyce's Ulysses, aimed at people who perhaps have tried the book and not got very far with it. And that worked really, really well. What we do is you get a short video and you've got kind of 2 weeks to read a chapter. Then we all get together for a discussion of the chapter, or perhaps you just read the chapter and you move on to the next video. And then after 2 weeks, you get another video, which is an introduction to the next chapter. And certainly I found I could actually not just read Ulysses, but enjoy it for the first time in my life. And we've had a great group of people doing that, and very, very, very enthusiastic. And so we've developed another course for another so-called difficult book, which is Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. And on the Riversmeet website, there's a short video, which is an introduction to the course. So if you're interested, please do have a look at it. And any questions, just get in touch with us. Or if you'd like to join us to start the course on March the 22nd, you'll be very, very welcome. Please keep the comments coming in. We've got people from all over London, all over the southwest of England, all over the south of England, East Anglia, Cambridge, from Canada, from San Francisco in the United States. Yeah, it's great to kind of see the comments coming in, to know that we're not alone in the studio. We're going to move. I don't know. Have we still got Jan in the studio? I don't know whether Yes, we've still got Jan, but you haven't been chucked out yet.
No, nowhere to go.
We're going to move to a reading from your book Stormlight, which we for people who joined us last time, we did a reading from one of the stories. Then we're going to do. If you want to just say a couple of words about the piece that the wonderful Peter Wight is going to be reading for us.
I might.
Yeah. Just want to say what generated the story.
Well, I've got to say now for something completely different. It seems a little bit off theme, but there are tenuous links there. Some years ago, I was in Cadaqués, a northern Spanish seaside town, north of Barcelona, with Anne Ayler and David Wilson and some others on a writing retreat. And knowing that Salvador Dali had a house and studio up the hill, I took myself up there to have a look. I wanted to have a look because I don't like Dali, which will be clear in the story. And then down the hill again, sitting in a cafe, and the short story started to put itself together. And part of it was the idea of a creative writing course that was as dodgy as the one that I was on was good. It sort of appealed to my funny bone, if you like. But I have to say before the story starts that all characters are fictional and bear no resemblance to any other fictional characters. Take it away.
Well, just before we start the film, just to kind of anybody who's not familiar with Peter Wight, many of you out there will recognise Peter once he starts reading. I think he was in the wonderful production of Uncle Vanya that was recently on BBC 4. But for me, the thing I will always remember him for is that he played the landlord of the Crown pub in Hot Fuzz, which is one of my favourite films, and he played the very, very lugubrious landlord, and so any of you out there who are Simon Pegg fans will recognise him immediately. But playing a very different character tonight. And I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed here, Dave, that we're safe to go into another video. The internet gods seem to be with us kind of so far. Here we go.
Tell, Not Show by Jan Woolf. He raises off the last bit of stubble, careful not to nick the folds of his jowl, and then wiggles his jaw this way and that, stroking his bristly grey moustache. Not bad for 79, he tells the mirror. Good head of hair, too. Time for the meds. A statin, glucosamine, vitamin C and D, magnesium, and something for his anxiety. Not that he ever talks about that. Happy this morning and recently back from Blighty, where he'd cast his vote for the next Prime Minister, a shoo-in his East Devon Conservative Association had assured him. He'd slept well and had had a good bowel movement before his breakfast of Wheaties and a cup of tea. Dressed in his favourite mustard shirt, pressed jeans and canvas sneakers, he checks his watch. 10:45 on the dot. Time for coffee. He leaves the bathroom and walks along the passage to the front door of his bijou ground floor apartment, nodding to the portrait of his late lady wife on the way. Morning, dear. He greets the tight-lipped, red-haired woman, straightening the frame a little. He does this most mornings, unless she had sent him a bad dream, one where she's telling him what to do. Again. She'd have hated it here. Too hot. Not enough to occupy her, so she'd have been very embarrassing on the sangria front. But his bereavement's all done and dusted, tempered by the insurance payout, and he could afford to buy this second home outright, leaving the Exmouth Hotel in the trusted hands of his maître d', a Spaniard. But all that free movement is going to stop under Boris, and about time too. He tops his head with a white straw hat, the front artfully angled to shadow his eyes against the sunlight. Closing his front door, he winds his way down the lane towards the seafront and his favourite cafe, Dali Dally's, run by his old friend June from Tiverton. He likes June, salt of the earth, but not wife material or any kind of companion really, what with her bulges and blue hair. Like him, she's one of the few expat Brits in the exclusive Spanish resort of Cadaqués, or immigrants, as a lout had called him only the other day. He walks on down the narrow lane, passing various hipsters and weirdos, spoiling the view. What you need here is a law-abiding bojo, he tells a passing hipster. Okay? He turns the corner, facing the turquoise sea, and there on the left is Darley Dally's. Its outside tables and chairs in full sun, so no one's sitting on them. Very few locals use it, but he and some tourists enjoy its indulgence in the local art legend Salvador Dali. The walls are covered in the mustachioed surrealists' reproductions, even though the real thing could be seen at Dali's house and studio a mile up the hill. Arty types were often to be seen tramping up there when all they needed to do was sit in June's cafe and enjoy the pictures in comfort. Some of his pictures were even on the placemats, and June had a knack of making twirly foam moustaches on top of her café con leche. He peers through the window, sighing with pleasure at the thought of a cup of June's weak coffee and a slice of her Victoria sponge. But what's this? A man peering back at him, sitting at his table under the air conditioning unit. Oh well, free world, he says, a little too loudly, as he strides in, sitting at the table next to the interloper, even though there's no one else in the cafe. Must be British, he thinks, looking the man up and down, noting that he's wearing socks with his sandals. Probably 60 of a day, but hard to tell under the suntan and the beard. He's wearing a T-shirt saying, "No passeran." No, he thinks, they shall not pass, these bloody lefties. Looks like a decent sort of bloke, though, despite the string bracelet. Good morning, June. Usual, please, he tells the plump woman in white trousers and a T-shirt sporting an over-lurid version of Dali's painting The Burning Giraffe. Right you are, babe, nods June. And you, sir? She serves the man at his table, babe, noting with pleasure that he's being served first. Oh, an Americano and a croissant, por favor, says the stranger. Do you have almond? Only ordinary, sir, says June. Or there's her splendid Victoria sponge, interrupts Babe, wishing June wouldn't call him that in public. Ordinary croissant will be fine, says the man, picking up a book. Babe's eyes slide to the cover. Project Inner Peace by Guy Linklater. The only self-help book he's ever read, and only then because it was by a Devon man. The hero's journey from Totnes via various far-flung locations and the panic attacks they had induced and back to Totnes had intrigued him. Pip, pip, he wants to say, Project Inner Peace. But says instead, leaning over, I notice what you're reading, sir. Fascinating. Ah, says the man, shutting the book. May I join you, Brit to Brit? Sure. The man puts out his hand. I'm Guy Linklater. Good God, not the Guy Link. Yes. Cecil Fealty, he says, grinning vigorously, shaking the offered hand. The book lay between them on the table, its job done. What fetches you to this neck of the woods, Mr. Linklater? I'm looking for a hotel, and it's Guy. Guy, sighs Cyril with deep pleasure. Well, you'll find plenty in the hometown of El Maestro. He waves his hand at the Dali reproductions on the wall, and thumping June just arrived with a tray of coffees and cakes. Guy's face clouds. He was a filthy fascist. Here you are, me dearios, says June, laying out their cups and plates, looking as if she wants to join them. Cyril orders an omelette. Cheese or mushroom, babe? Cyril, snaps Cyril. Bit of each, please, he adds, waving her off, taking a sip of coffee. Then, leaning towards Guy, flecks of café con leche on his top lip, says with a knowing nod, Great artist, though. The League of Surrealists threw him out for supporting Franco, says Guy. Oh, I knew that, says Cyril, sitting bolt upright. Secretly, he quite admired Franco, liked his sense of order. You knew what was what with Franco, but he also knew he wasn't supposed to say so, not around these parts anyway. And his work is quite adolescent, adds Guy. Franco's? No. Oh, quite. Dali. Yes, but a great, draftsman, says Cyril, pointing at a lurid reproduction of the melting watch hanging in the alcove. And a disgusting human being, adds Guy, dipping his croissant into his Americano. Anal. Sorry? Over-meticulous brushwork, constrained feeling. But that's the paintings, not the man, says Cyril, pleased with his own sophistry. The paintings reflect the man, Cyril. Right. Cyril would like June to reappear as a distraction, but knows she's cooking the omelette. Maybe even had to go to the supermercado for mushrooms. So, Guy, what's your next book now that you found in a piece? Pip, pip, he says, flicking his fingers for quote marks. I think I only had one book in me, says Guy. I want to start running creative writing workshops. I've seen an old hotel up the hill. El Viento, by any chance, says Cyril. It means the wind. Yes, I know, Cyril. I've made an offer, but I need a hotelier. Cyril's eyes grow large. All those unemployed locals who didn't get away, all those divorced or widowed middle-aged lady would-be novelists. Surely one among them he can enjoy a meal and a bottle of Chianti with of an evening, who might even pick up the bill. I'm your man, he says, and I do believe there's a book in me too. Yes, says Guy, I'm sure there is. What will you call your workshops? Show, not tell, Cyril. Pardon? Show, not tell's all the rage these days, says Guy. I read it in The Guardian. All the rage, repeats Cyril, resisting a stab at The Guardian, but not at the Victoria Sponge. That could be a good title for my own memoirs, he says, wiping Spanish strawberry jam from his chin. If I were ever to write them... you mean memoir, Cyril? Singular. Important people write memoirs, don't they? Says Cyril, thinking of the next Prime Minister. Boris hasn't written his, only one of Churchill, but Boris will have his work cut out. I wonder, says Guy. Yes? Says Cyril, sensing his opportunity. Memoir writing, says Guy. We need a brand. How about Do or Die, says Cyril. No. No ifs, no buts. No. Come what may? No. They stare for a few seconds at the reproduction of swans reflecting elephants hanging askew beyond the cash till, next to a photo of Dali twirling his moustache, eyes popping. I've got it, says Guy. Tell, not show. Terrific! I knew we'd hit it off, says Cyril. I'll be your hotelier. We'll get all the right people, advertise in the Mail. I'll start the business plan. He snaps his fingers. June, please join us. Never mind about the omelette.
Okay. I'm assuming I'm back on right now. Thank you very, very much to Jan Woolf, the writer of the story, and to Peter Wight, the actor. I do hope you all enjoyed his performance. I know there was a slight issue with the kind of the lineup of speech and words, but I hope that didn't spoil the story for you. And we will endeavour to have those videos out and available to everybody to watch again afterwards. Now, I'm hoping that if we're very, very brave and try again, we might be able to get Bookshop up. I do hope so, because the wonderful voice of Celeste Veazey and Bérengère, who plays the character in the bookshop, is wonderful. And it was directed by Aidan Casey, and also just a quick shout out to Jamie Hoskins. I don't know if he's with us tonight, but Jamie assisted on this video, as he has with so many of our Riversmeet projects. Thank you to him, and also to Topsham Books. I don't know, a few of you out there will know, who allowed us to film in their bookshop. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed here, and I've noticed we've got people also from Chicago who've been with us this evening. I hope they're still with us and enjoying the evening or the afternoon as it is there. Let's just see if we can get bookshop in just to finish off our session. I don't really know whether to keep talking or whether you should just all talk amongst yourselves while we try and make this happen. Here we go.
There is in Lewes a bookseller, much reviled in the town for his printing of the works of Tom Paine, but also much regarded as a useful idiot for his knowledge of the printed word beyond Lewes. He saw me one day, looking in at his window, called to me to come into the shop. Even then I knew enough not to cross the threshold. I told him if he wished to speak with me, it must be in the light of day. He came out to me in the street, bending his knees so that his face was before mine. He asked, did I like the covers of the books? I answered that I much preferred what was within the covers. He asked me then, could I read?
That's clearly not going to work. I'm so disappointed. However, it will be on the Riversmeet website tomorrow. I would recommend to everybody that you pay us a visit on the website, and hopefully you'll be able to see and enjoy what's actually a really, really lovely video. I think just to finish off the evening, we've got I've got a question in. Question from Patricia in San Francisco. In the USA, at this time, divergent movements are often given false equivalency, and words like insurrection, riot, activism, resistance, and justice are used interchangeably in the public discourse. How do we define resistance in our modern world? Has it changed since Shelley's time? And how do you interpret Shelley's perspective on the use or misuse of violence in the act of resistance? Oh my God, Patricia, that is an entire other hour's worth. Have we still got Richard here in the studio with us as well? I don't know if we can kind of pop him back in, and perhaps Richard and Jan might want to just comment and see if you can give there isn't a quick answer to that.
No, just while getting Richard, I think it's snooping out what's wrong and unfair and doing something about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That could take an hour to say, but there are basic principles.
And resistance can take so many forms in the world. I think Richard talked a little bit about Poland and Solidarność, and I remember one of the forms of resistance there at the time was that women would walk up to the soldiers and the police and hand them flowers. And it was actually as big an act of resistance as many of the kind of more traditional forms, perhaps. And I think if we look across the world, activists are very, very creative in how they resist. You know, I mean, I'm sure people who are watching could come in with lots and lots of other examples. However, unfortunately, I think we have to kind of finish at this point. Oh, Richard, right, you've got 30 seconds to.
Okay.
I'm going
to do it. Okay, I'm going to do a plug for the next play, which is going to be about conspiracy theories, but it starts with the execution of Ned Despard, who was an Irish Republican in 1803, and the difference between, I think, the people who stormed the White House and claimed to be insurrectionists, claimed to be dissidents, and Ned Despard is summed up in one little fragment from his speech from the scaffold. He said, "Citizens, I hope and trust, notwithstanding my fate and the fate of those who no doubt will soon follow me, that the principles of freedom, of humanity, and of justice will finally triumph over falsehood, tyranny, and delusion, and every principle inimical to the interests of the human race." And I think that's the difference, that those people who stormed the Capitol in January want to drag us back into the Dark Ages. What Shelley wanted to do, what Ned Despard wanted to do, was actually draw people together to build a new future for themselves. The really good news about the play, and I'm going to give away the end of the Shelley play now, is that Shelley escapes at the end, despite the machinery of the state closing in around them. They escape by doing something which was outside of Lord Sidmouth's imagination. He thought they would try and leave by road. He thought they would try and escape that way. And by taking a boat and sailing across to South Wales, they escaped from him. And the end of the play is a summary of Sidmouth's rage that these terrible dissidents have escaped from his clutches. So it finishes with a real gesture of hope, and I think that's really important, because we know they keep an eye on us. We know that, but it's really important to know equally well that in the end they can't shut us up. So that's my message to everyone for the evening, is that, you know, they think they're powerful. They're not really.
I don't know, Roelof, did you want to come in at the end of that, or are you happy to let us leave at this point? Oh, we need your microphone on. Oh.
Sorry about the technical hit.
All right.
It's been an amazing evening. That's all I want to say, really, and I feel really proud to have been part of this, and particularly the reading just now, Jan, of your wonderful story that I've spent a lot of time laying out, and actually it really came alive. It's just so beautifully read. It was so evocative. So yeah, amazing.
And I've had a message from Dave saying that the videos will be available on YouTube through Bookmarks after this, so that anybody who's been watching tonight, you can either go to our website and watch them, but the actual kind of tonight's videos alongside of this program, people will be able to watch without the vagaries of the internet interrupting. I think, you know, this is a new format for all of us. You know, this kind of virtual studio is completely new. We're all testing out what we can and can't do with it at the moment, and I think, you know, I hope people have enjoyed what they've seen this evening. Hope they've enjoyed the discussion and the videos that they were able to see. And thank you very much for being with us, everybody. And I think we're probably about ready to sign out at this point. So, and a big thank you to Bookmarks for hosting us again, and to Dave